All right, welcome to Matthew 28, brother. My name's Jason. Today we're going to look at the question, do I have faith? So as Christians, our gut response to this question is, of course I have faith. I believe in Jesus. But there's some nuance there. And what we'll look at today is there's a little bit of a difference between believing that Jesus existed. Plenty of people believe Jesus existed. Right? There's a difference between that and having faith that he's going to do what he said he's going to do. So we're going to look at the passage of John chapter 4, verses 43 to 54. What we'll learn from that is this passage, it's actually going to challenge us as Christians to trust in the power of Jesus, even when we can't see the results, or at least not the immediate results. It's going to teach us that true faith is not dependent on physical evidence. Remember, faith is things not seen. So it's not dependent on physical evidence, but instead it depends on a trust in Jesus and his promises. We're going to emphasize the importance of believing in God's power and sovereignty. He's in control of all things. Nothing is happening that's outside or beyond his control. Let's open up Logos Bible software and turn to John chapter 4, verse 43. And we can see that after 2 days, Jesus departed, and this is 2 days in Samaria. He departed and headed for Galilee. In verse 44, we read that Jesus himself had testified that a prophet has no honor in his own hometown. And that's coming from Matthew chapter 13, verse 57. It reads, "And they took offense at him, Jesus, but Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household." So John's picking up on that. We read there in verse 45 that when he came to Galilee, the Galileans welcomed him. They saw everything that he'd done in Jerusalem. They saw some signs. And what it does is set a stage for at least the discussion to recognize the works of Jesus, his works, as a foundation for our faith. His works are a foundation for our faith. Faith starts with an acknowledgement of Jesus' power and authority. And what that does is it mirrors our need to recognize and remember his work in our lives as the basis of our faith. So it's what he did on the cross. It's what he does in our lives. This is the basis of our faith. In verses 46 to 50, we see that there's an official who has a son that's ill to the point of death. And by official here, this is probably one of the people, probably not related to Herod, but one of the people of his court. And this is not going to be Herod the Great. He's the one that killed all the babies when he was trying to kill baby Jesus. So Herod Antipas would be the one that was governor of Judea. He shows up to Jesus. He's desperate. He how would we feel if our son is to the point of death and there's nothing that can help him? And we hear, maybe there is. Maybe there's one thing that can help my son. And this official believed that. He said, there's one thing that can help my son. It's this man, Jesus. We've heard the things that he does. Verse 49, "Sir, come down before my child dies." He has that faith, right? But verse 48, Jesus said, "Unless you see signs and wonders, you'll not believe," right? But he's using, and that's what I like about Logos, is we can look at you here and we can do a study on it. We can see that you in verse 48, both times, is plural. So even though Jesus is engaged with this conversation with this official, he's actually addressing all of the people. So he's not directly only addressing the official. He's addressing all of them. Unless you all see signs and wonders, you all will not believe. So the official is part of that group that he's talking to. But we see that the official does believe. Again, in verse 49, "Sir, come down before my child dies." He absolutely believes that Jesus is the one who can heal his son. And because of that belief, we have verse 50, Jesus says to him, "Go, your son will live." And right after that, the man believed the word that Jesus spoke to him and went on his way. Now that's how you trust Jesus, right? He says, it's going to happen. And that man believed him. Now, when it comes to our current day, you know, we all pray for healing for ourselves or for others, probably fairly often. It might be one of the very main things that people pray for is for healing. And if we've been Christian for any amount of time, we understand that sometimes that's answered with a yes, sometimes that's answered with a no. Sometimes it's answered with a wait. But he's not saying that, hey, if you believe me or if you believe in me, that you'll just be healed, period. That's not what he says. He says everything's going to work out, right? And it is true in a way. We will be healed, period. But it might not be in this life. We might not get the answer that we want in this life. And we should be very thankful about that. Because if we've prayed, again, if we've been Christian for any amount of time, we have asked God for any number of things that we have not received. And we need to consider how much of a blessing that is. What all things have I in my life asked God for and begged for and didn't get? And then in hindsight, I look and I go, man, I'm glad I dodged that. I'm glad the Lord kept me out of that situation. I thought I really wanted that, but I was wrong, and God knew better because he always does. So there's our faith, right? We need to trust that, hey, if things don't go the way that we think they should or that we think we want, we need to understand that there's somebody that knows more, that's in control, that's working these things out for us, basically saving us from ourselves in our sometimes foolish requests. We see in verse 51 that as the official was going down, his servants met him and told him his son was recovering. So nothing really stands out there, right? Until we understand. Verse 52, he asked them when he began to get better, and they said, yesterday at the 7th hour, the fever left him. Okay, well, what's that have to do with the price of milk, right? Well, verse 53, the father knew that that was the hour when Jesus said to him, your son will live. And he himself believed in all his household. So the part that we might read past and not pick up on is this is the next day. Jesus tells this man that his son will be healed, and that man stayed there. Instead of running right back home to his son to check and see if what Jesus said was true, he stayed there that night and traveled back the next day. Because when he met his people, they said it was yesterday at the 7th hour, and that's when Jesus had told him that his son will live. So we'll see this man's faith is so strong that even with his son in a dire situation, once Jesus said, your son will live, this man believed that to the point where he said, I don't need to hurry home. I'll get on that journey in the morning. I'm going to trust Jesus. The question might come up because we saw first when Jesus talked to the man, and he said in verse 50, Jesus said to him, go, your son will live. And it says the man believed the word that Jesus spoke to him and went on his way. When we come back down in verse 53, it says again, after he heard the proof that what Jesus said had come true about his son, then it says again, and he believed, right? So that's interesting because we know he had already believed, but we see that as works out, and what builds our faith is we believe Jesus, and then as we see his promises be fulfilled, then our belief becomes stronger and stronger, and our faith gets stronger and stronger. And we see that Jesus even got this whole man's household, all his household believed, because this one man had enough faith in Jesus to believe him. And that cemented the promise, that cemented the outcome. Jesus says, I'm going to make a sign out of this. And then we see, again, just like the Samaritan woman, after Jesus showed her that sign and told her her past, she went straight to Samaria and started telling everybody. She was evangelizing and witnessing. Same thing with this official, right? This isn't a Jew. This is a Roman official, right? And him and all his household end up being saved because he had faith in Jesus. He saw the miracle, and then he evangelized. He started witnessing. Looks like he started right there in his household. I bet he didn't stop there. If your son was about to die and somebody healed them, would you stop right at just telling your family, or would you let everybody know? So, some of the nuance between belief and faith, in my opinion, anyways, is we can compare it to skydiving, right? If we go up in the plane and we stand at the edge and we look down, we need to decide, do I have faith that my parachute's going to open, right? I believe that parachutes work. I believe that this one probably will open, but do I have faith that it will, right? So the act of jumping out of that plane requires maybe a number of things, but it definitely requires trust. It requires that trust and that faith that that parachute's going to open and keep you landing on your feet. So sometimes it might feel like we're jumping out of a plane, and sometimes we need to take that leap of faith. If we have a pet, now every time we walk up to that pet, say we feed that pet at certain times throughout the day, maybe every day when we get home from work, we feed that pet. So when we get home from work, of course, it's happy to see us, but it's going to be by its food bowl or dish, expecting to be fed when that animal sees us, because that animal has faith that they're going to get fed. They're used to that routine. They have faith that they're going to get fed. And not that an animal's faith is the same as ours, but we can see it even in the rest of God's creation, these expectations. So how do we apply this in our own lives, right? If we're questioning our faith at home, and maybe other members of our family are questioning theirs at home, a good idea might be to set aside some time every week, maybe one night a week, to do family devotions together. It'd be great if it was every night, but hey, start with one, and get your family together and just share struggles and doubts, share those things with each other and talk through them. You can pray together. You can read Psalms together. You can look through different passages that might talk about God rewarding those who seek him, things that show, like Hebrews 11, the hall of faith, and just have your family in a very open environment where everybody can talk about their beliefs and experiences. And then, you can kind of strengthen your faith together. And as a family, you can see how God has worked in your lives, and you can talk about those things, and that'll build up your faith as a family, and it'll build up those family bonds as well. If you were blessed by the video today, please consider clicking like and subscribe. It's a free way you can help support the channel. Also, if you enjoy using Logos Bible software or you're interested in it, please consider clicking the affiliate link in the description. God bless.